This video has hunting scenes which were taken in 1988 and 1989. Some of the 1988 scenes were used in an earlier video, the Tree Lounge Advantage, Hunting Whitetail Hideaways. This video was produced by Advanced Hunting Equipment Incorporated, the company that makes the best equipment for the best hunters.
I counted the days, I counted the weeks, I counted the months, I counted the seasons. I've done everything I could do within reason, so I could shoot my gun come a deer hunting season. I took my gun out, sighted it in, shot cardboard targets and a case of beer. My adrenaline was up, my shoulder was blue. I'd done everything a deer hunter could do. I bought a $14,000 four-wheel drive so I could get back where them big deer hide. Early in the morning before the sun comes up, waiting in my tree for a trophy buck. I counted the days, I counted the weeks, I counted the months, I counted the seasons. I've done everything I could do within reason, so I could shoot my gun come a deer hunting season. Sitting in my stand, half asleep, with Mother Nature all around me, when off in a thicket I happened to see a big 10-pointer headed straight at me. Now the rest of my story I don't like to tell. My fingers were cold and my eyes were swell. When I drew my bead to collect that rack, I woke up and dreaming I was home in this sack. I counted the days, I counted the weeks, I counted the months, I counted the seasons. I've done everything I could do within reason, so I could shoot my gun come a deer hunting season. So I could shoot my gun come a deer hunting season.
Every area has whitetail hideaways. All you have to do is find them. It isn't easy, but if you know how, it can be done. What you're looking for is a place where there had been little or no hunting for a number of years. This can be a small patch of woods behind an urban shopping center where no one would even think of hunting. It can be a large block of private land that has not allowed hunting. Or it can be an area that is so inaccessible that other hunters don't bother it. Once you find your own whitetail hideaways, you can have the kind of hunting you will see in this video. I'm Bob Heiss.
And I'm Margaret Heiss, Bob's wife and hunting companion.
Through the magic of video, we would like to invite you to go hunting with us in one of our favorite whitetail hideaways. Margaret and I work as a team. She likes to hunt and is an excellent shot, so she does most of the hunting. Her rifle is a custom-made 7mm Magnum with a fiberglass stock. This rifle can drive tacks at normal deer hunting ranges. I had rather take pictures than hunt, so I operate the video camera. Here, my camera is mounted on a tripod which is attached to a modified tree lounge. I call this my video lounge. The video lounge eliminates the need for holding a heavy camera and helps reduce camera shake. It also gives me the option of standing, sitting, or reclining. This makes it possible to stay in my stand day after day without being uncomfortable. In some of our 1989 hunting scenes, you will hear Margaret and I talking to each other and may wonder how we can talk when deer are so close. The answer to this is simple. We use small two-way radios. We didn't have these radios during our 1988 hunt, and this lack of communication cost us the biggest buck we saw all year. These radios are equipped with earplugs that serve as microphones and speakers. They are so sensitive that we can talk to each other when deer are directly under our stands.
Bob, tell them about our 3-day hunt.
Our hunt began with Margaret checking the zero of her rifle. If at all possible, we check the zero of our rifles before each hunting trip, for we believe that having good equipment is the first step in successful deer hunting. On this trip, we were hunting a swampy area, which had large oaks and other hardwoods. It was late in the season, and the leaves were all gone. Most of the food was gone too, and the deer were moving a lot, searching for the last of the acorns. Several times on our first day, we saw does and fawns feeding or moving through the woods. Our first buck was a nice 6-point. He stopped in an opening, giving Margaret a perfect shot. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see her slowly ease her rifle into shooting position. Margaret passed this one up. She wanted something bigger. Later, a nice 8-point and several does walked out of a thicket and began feeding under a big oak, right in front of Margaret's stand. After carefully studying his rack, she decided to pass this one up also. My nerves were just beginning to settle down after waiting for Margaret to shoot the 8-point, when I saw white antlers off to my right. I eased my head around and was eyeball to eyeball with the biggest buck I had seen in a long time. Within 2 seconds, I could hear my heart pounding, and I was shaking so that I could hardly hold my camera still. I held my breath as I waited for Margaret to shoot. I waited, and I waited. The big buck walked off without Margaret ever knowing he was there. She didn't look back because she was still watching the small 8-point. We saw several more deer during the afternoon, but nothing that we wanted to take home. After a beautiful day in the deer woods, we went home with memories of the big one that got away. Since we had seen a number of deer during the first day and felt that we had not disturbed them, we hunted the same area on the second day. Maybe we would get lucky and see that big 8-point again. After several hours had passed without seeing a single deer, Margaret pulled a book out of her pack and began reading. While she read, I watched. More hours passed without even seeing a doe or a fawn to look at. Margaret put her book up, put her rifle in the gun holders, fixed her pillow, and settled down for a nap. While she took a nap, I watched a beautiful fox squirrel. There was also a pileated woodpecker, which was drinking out of a rain-filled knothole. After about an hour's nap, Margaret woke up, looked around, picked up her rifle, and went back to hunting. But still no deer. By now we were both having second thoughts about having passed up the small 8-point the day before. The sun was going down fast when a movement caught my eye. The deer were finally beginning to move. I looked at my watch and found that we had been in our stands for 7.5 hours. Almost before we realized it, several bucks and does came out of the thicket and began moving through the open woods. One had a pretty nice rack, almost as big as the one I had seen the day before. Margaret wasted no time in easing her rifle up and finding him in her scope. The big buck kept coming towards us until he was almost under our stands. I couldn't understand why Margaret didn't shoot. When I looked to see why she hadn't shot, I saw that she was aiming behind the deer that I had been watching. I looked where she was aiming and then understood why she hadn't shot the buck that was almost under her stand. She was watching an even bigger buck. If you don't believe that sitting in a tree stand and watching 2 trophy bucks almost under you at the same time will get your heart pounding and the adrenaline flowing, then you don't know what deer hunting is all about. I was behind the camera and I almost had a heart attack. Margaret was behind the gun and she was on cloud 9 for a week. As you walk to where your buck disappeared, you see his antlers and realize that this is not a dream. It's really true. This is your buck. All the weeks and months of planning and waiting are suddenly forgotten, for you have just killed a trophy whitetail buck, one of the greatest big game animals in the world. On the third day, we moved much farther back into the swamp. Most hunters are too lazy or out of shape to get far from their vehicles, but Margaret and I try to get at least a half a mile from the nearest road. This lets us get away from other hunters and into areas where deer are less disturbed. There's more to deer hunting than just shooting a deer. Many hours can be spent in choosing the right equipment and learning how to use it. This is a part of deer hunting, just as much as scouting or waiting. And getting ready can be a very enjoyable part. If you do it right, this is where it pays off, in the deer woods. The hunter who has good equipment and knows how to use it will enjoy his hunting trips more and will have a much better chance of shooting a big buck. As you choose each piece of equipment, you dream of being out in the woods alone when a big buck walks in front of your stand. In your dreams, you shoot hundreds of big bucks before season ever opens. Yes, there's more to deer hunting than just shooting a deer. Shooting a deer takes only a few seconds. Dreaming about it can take months. Remembering those few seconds can last a lifetime. Tree stand hunting is a wonderful way to escape from the hectic pace of today's world. It lets you slow down, relax, and just let your thoughts drift as your eyes sweep the woods around you. Then, when you least expect it, a movement catches your attention and you suddenly realize that you're looking at a deer. It's a buck, a nice 6-point. But this one's not big enough. Margaret lets him walk. The 6-point really got Margaret excited. Now she's using binoculars to see back into the thickets. Our second deer for the afternoon is a doe. She's looking back into the thicket. Maybe there's a buck following her. It is a buck, a nice 8-point. This buck doesn't know it, but he only has a few seconds to live. This was the last day of our hunt, and Margaret had decided to shoot this 8-point, but changed her mind because she knew he needed to live and grow for at least one more year. Less than an hour later, a much bigger buck came out of the same thicket. Just for insurance, Margaret kept her rifle ready in case a second shot was needed, even though she could see that her bullet had hit exactly where she had aimed. This buck wasn't going anywhere except to a taxidermist. After shooting a nice buck, you unload your rifle, lower your equipment, and climb down. If you're like most hunters, you will have a good case of the shakes about this time. Once on the ground, it's a good idea to reload your gun before going to your deer. More than one unlucky hunter has had a dead deer suddenly come to life and run away. Always approach your deer from the rear and use your rifle or a stick to be sure it's dead. This is the kind of hunt that most deer hunters dream about. 2 big bucks in 2 days. It doesn't happen very often, but it can happen almost any time. When you do get an opportunity to shoot a big buck, there are 100 things that can go wrong. All it takes is one little mistake, and you will go home with a tale about the one that got away, instead of venison for the freezer, a rack for the wall, and memories that will last a lifetime. As soon as we returned from our 3-day hunt, Margaret and I started making plans for the 1989 bow season. We bought new high country bows and shot thousands of arrows at 3D targets in our backyard. When bow season came in, we planned to shoot some of the bucks that we had passed up during the 1988 gun season. Because of our work schedules, we completely missed bow season and almost missed gun season as well. This is our first hunting trip of the 1989 deer season, and it is already early December. The deer were not moving, so I spent much of the day watching birds and other wildlife. Margaret spent the day looking for deer and reading. This possum fed back and forth beneath our stands for most of the day. The sun had gone down and the light was fading fast when Margaret whispered,
Bob, don't move. Here comes a deer.
I turned my head ever so slowly and saw a nice buck coming out of a thicket. It looked like a 7-point, Do you want him?
Yes.
Okay, he's all yours.
Not from here. There's some limbs in my way. He needs to take 2 or 3 more steps and I'll have a clear shot.
If you want this deer, you better shoot fast. He's about to take off.
Please, just 1 more step.
Limbs or no limbs, Margaret decides that she can wait no longer. She gets a good rest, steadies the crosshairs, and slowly squeezes the trigger. This is her first deer of the season, and she will be on cloud 9 for a week. By the time I got my equipment out of the tree, there wasn't enough light to take any close-ups. So we field dressed her deer, loaded deer and equipment into the van, and headed for home. The suspense and excitement of these few moments were burned into our memories. On the long drive home, we relived them over and over again. It was much colder during our next hunting trip. The first morning it was about 15 degrees and very windy. When it's this cold, Margaret takes her sleeping bag with her. A sleeping bag adds very little weight to your equipment, but it can add a whole lot of comfort to your body. Even with the wind chill factor well below 0, she was completely comfortable. The cold weather seemed to have increased the rutting activity. At one point we saw this buck following a doe. About an hour later, we saw another buck chase a doe down the same trail. When you know that you're in a good location and deer are moving, the excitement level can stay high all day. But all it takes is one whisper and it can go even higher.
Bob, I see a deer in the thicket to my left.
Is it a buck?
I can't tell. I see 3 deer, and one looks like a nice buck.
When you see the flash of antlers in a nearby thicket, the excitement can build up until you find yourself holding your breath. Sometimes you can actually hear your heart pounding. You just sit there, waiting and waiting, hoping that the buck will come out into the open where you will have a clear shot. At one point, this buck came to the edge of the thicket, like he was looking to see if it was safe to step into the open. How does that one look? Later, two bucks moved into a small opening at the edge of the thicket. The one that just put his head down to eat, take him if you want to. I pushed the replay button on my camera and could see that Margaret had made a good lung shot. I could even see where her bullet had kicked up leaves after passing through the deer. This buck didn't drop in his tracks, but I knew he wouldn't go far. Margaret knew because she saw him fall.
I counted the days, I counted the weeks, I counted the months, I counted the seasons. I've done everything I could do within reason, so I could shoot my gun come a deer hunting season. I took my gun out.
This buck ran about 40 yards. He was a basic 8-point with one sticker point. Margaret now had a 7-point and a 9-point for the season. Turn his rack sideways. Hold it like that. Hold still. The best way I know to get warm on a cold day is to start dragging or hauling a nice buck out of the woods. At such times, the cold just doesn't seem to matter at all. After hunting 5 days without seeing anything we wanted to shoot, we returned to the same location where Margaret had shot her 9-point. We had been in our stand several hours when this 8-point walked out of a thicket. Margaret, do you see him?
Yes.
The camera's rolling. Shoot. Shoot him again.
What do you mean, shoot him again? He's dead.
Did he go down?
He dropped in his tracks.
The one I saw ran. It didn't look like he'd even been hit.
Well, the one I shot's lying over there by that big oak tree.
You shot the wrong one.
I shot the right one. You had the camera on the wrong one.
Since we do not want to include profanity in this video, we have omitted the conversations which took place after I discovered that Margaret had shot the wrong deer. Shooting a nice buck is hard enough. taking a video of someone else shooting a nice buck is 10 times harder. In this situation, Margaret and I had been hunting for 5 days in bitter cold weather. And then, when a buck did show up, he had a buddy with him. Margaret saw one buck and I saw the other. I had the camera on the one that ran, and she dropped this 8-point in his tracks. We had one more day to hunt, so we moved to another area which we had hunted during the previous season. We also decided to pass up anything unless it was bigger than the 8-point and the 9-point which we already had. A series of frosty mornings had turned the leaves of a big oak to a deep golden color. As I looked up, the wind was making them flutter against a background of blue sky. This is the kind of morning that deer hunters dream about. It's so beautiful, so peaceful, and so enjoyable that you want to remember every moment of it. We had been hunting for several hours when 2 does passed behind Margaret's stand. I watched these 4 does for almost an hour. They didn't seem to be in a hurry, and they were not feeding. I couldn't help but wonder why they were moving in the middle of the day.
No.
I heard a rustling in the leaves and slowly turned my head, hoping it was a deer. Instead, it was an armadillo searching for food beneath the carpet of leaves. I was still watching the armadillo when Margaret whispered,
Bob, here comes a big buck.
I turned and saw a big buck right in front of me. He looked like a nice 10-point, and his antlers were almost snow white.
I'm ready.
I whispered in my radio,
Shoot and ready.
"This is the one we've been looking for. Shoot!"
He's behind some bushes. I can't shoot.
Ready.
He stood in one spot for about 10 minutes, took 3 or 4 steps, then stopped again. It was the biggest rack we had seen all year, right in front of us. Margaret was watching him through her scope, but still couldn't shoot. He needed to take 2 or 3 more steps and he would be in the open. He was totally unaware of our presence, yet he just stood there for approximately 40 minutes, so close, yet so far away. When he did move, he moved fast, back the way he had come from. After he departed, I looked at Margaret and whispered, "The lucky so-and-so." From then on, we called him the Lucky Buck. We spent the rest of the afternoon watching a small buck moving back and forth through the woods. We didn't fire a shot, but we did have just about all the suspense and excitement we could stand for one day. On the long drive home that night, we kept remembering the big buck with the snow-white antlers and could talk about nothing else. We also decided to get away from work just as soon as possible so we could get back and hunt the Lucky Buck. When we were finally able to get away from work again, there was only 1 week of deer season left. We planned to devote the whole week, if necessary, to hunting the Lucky Buck and to pass up everything else. However, when this 8-point walked by, I took one look at his rack, turned and saw Margaret raise her rifle, and thought to myself, well, so much for plans. To my surprise, she passed him up. When I told Margaret it was getting too dark to video, she unloaded her rifle, lowered it to the ground, and was about halfway down the tree when I whispered, "Don't move. The Lucky Buck is right behind you." She just sat there while the Lucky Buck and several does passed within a few yards of her stand. Then they stopped and turned broadside, giving her a perfect shot. But her gun was already on the ground. It was almost as though the Lucky Buck was playing games with us, as though he had waited until Margaret started down before showing himself. On the second day of our hunt, we had deer in sight most of the day. I watched this doe for almost an hour before she moved into a thicket. This 8-point stood in a small patch of cover for over 30 minutes. The only reason I can see him is that I am looking down into the cover instead of looking into it from one side. Margaret is about 40 yards to my left, and she cannot see this deer at all. The small patch of cover seemed to hold some special attraction for deer. For most of the deer we saw that day, spent from 15 minutes to 3 hours there. I never had the problem before, but on this day I learned that it is possible to have too many deer. A buck and 2 does bedded down in the small patch of cover only a few yards from my tree. At first, it was nice, for it gave me something to video, and I always enjoy watching deer. But after the first hour or two, it became a problem. I was afraid to move because they were so close. The problem was made worse by the fact that the temperature was dropping and I was getting cold. After about 3 hours, they got up and moved away. Once they were out of sight, I wasted no time getting into my insulated coveralls. Here's the 8-point again. This time he is almost under my stand. The lucky buck was our last visitor of the day to the small patch of cover. He just stood there for about 30 minutes.
I'm looking at the
It would have been an easy bow shot, but I didn't have a bow.
one I'm looking at.
Margaret had a rifle, but she couldn't even see him.
Mark beside me. Go ahead and shoot.
In several days of hard hunting, we saw the lucky buck several times. The rut was still going strong, and one time, while chasing a doe, he passed almost beneath my stand. One by one, we were counting off the number of days we had hunted and the number of days we had left. With each passing day, our chances of getting the lucky buck were getting less and less. Many big bucks die of old age because they're too smart to be killed. It looked like this buck was going to die of old age too. Not because he was too smart, but because he was just so lucky. I could have shot him a dozen times, but didn't have a gun. Margaret had a gun, but never had a chance to use it.
Margaret, the big one is to your left front. Just move.
Towards the end of the week, it became a question of whether we would run out of time or whether the big buck would run out of luck. We rotated our stand sites each day, and on next to our last day, we found his bedroom. Three separate times he came back to the same spot. By turning my camera up to 24 power, I could see him rubbing trees, making scrapes, or just flashing his white antlers. We had one more day of deer season left, but now I knew exactly where to hunt. On our last day, the weather was miserable. Last night's freezing rain had melted, and for the first hour or two, we had been in a virtual shower of ice and ice water. The day was almost gone, and we hadn't seen the first deer. In fact, the only thing we had seen was a possum that looked cold and miserable. Now the wind was getting up and a storm was approaching. I reluctantly decided it would be useless to stay any longer. Margaret, there's no use staying. Let's get down before the storm hits.
Okay, I'm ready. Bob, there he is, right in front of you.
Can you shoot?
There are too many limbs in my way.
This is the way it is with tree stand hunting. Things can happen so fast when you least expect them. One moment I was watching a possum, and the next moment I was looking at the lucky buck. Margaret found one small hole to shoot through and made a perfect shot. What a way to end a deer season. Our hunt for the lucky buck is over. It's time to go home.
I counted the days, I counted the weeks, I counted the months, I counted the seasons. I've done everything I could do within reason, so I could shoot my gun come a deer hunting season. I took my gun out, sighted it in, shot cardboard targets and a case of beer. My adrenaline was up, my shoulder was blue. I'd done everything a deer hunter could do. I bought a $14,000 four-wheel drive so I could get back where them big deer hide. Early in the morning before the sun comes up, waiting in my tree for a trophy buck.
Now that another deer season is over, Margaret and I will clean and oil our guns and put them away. But we're already making plans for next season. And next season, we are not going to let work cause us to miss bow season. At this time, I would like to remind you that there are 2 videos on this one cassette. Stay tuned for the Tree Lounge Advantage, which has lots of useful information on tree stands and tree stand hunting. This video was produced by Advanced Hunting Equipment, the company that makes the best equipment for the best hunters. Now that you have seen the tree lounge used in a hunting situation, let's take a look at some of the advantages of hunting with the tree lounge and how these advantages can help a deer hunter have safer, more enjoyable, and more successful hunting trips. Before looking at the tree lounge, let's take a quick look at how other climbing tree stands are made. This is a Baker tree stand, which was the original climbing tree stand. It has a V-bar for holding a tree, a platform to stand or sit on, and it folds up for carrying. The Baker type tree stand will get you up a tree, but this type of stand has a number of problems. Because of limited holding ability, it has a bad habit of slipping. It tends to rock and roll and make a lot of noise each time a hunter shifts his weight. They are easy to fall out of. And they are very uncomfortable. Except for the Tree Lounge, every major brand of climbing tree stand that is sold today uses the same basic design as a Baker tree stand. Some use a strap instead of a V-bar. Some use a metal platform instead of plywood. But the basic design is still the same. Any tree stand that is made using the Baker design will have the same problems as the Baker tree stand because these problems are inherent in this design. The two-piece climbing stands are two modified Baker tree stands, one to sit on and one to stand on. With today's hunting pressure, it's hard enough to even see a nice buck, much less shoot one. Why make the job harder by hunting with a tree stand that is unsafe, uncomfortable, hard to shoot out of, and one that tends to rock and roll and make a lot of noise every time you shift your weight? The Tree Lounge is completely different from other climbing tree stands. Instead of folding up like other stands, it telescopes. Instead of a platform, it has a sling seat. The seat is made of premium grade trampoline material, which is extremely strong and weather resistant. This piece of fabric tests over 400 pounds per inch and will support over 8,000 pounds. Unless abused, it will last a lifetime. The frame of the Tree Lounge has three sections which are made of heavy aluminum tubing. The upper section grips the tree and holds the upper end of the seat. The middle section holds the lower end of the seat. The lower section serves as a footrest. The carrying straps are made of 2-inch webbing, can be adjusted for size, and are placed so that the Tree Lounge fits the back like a backpack. At this time, advanced hunting equipment only makes one tree stand, the Tree Lounge System 1, which you see here. The System 1 comes with seat, adjustable carrying straps, foot climber, a wedge and bungee cord, and hardware. And best of all, this design does not have any of the problems that are inherent in the Baker type tree stands. Weight is just one of several factors which determines how hard or how easy it is to carry a given type of tree stand. How a stand folds up, the kind of carrying straps you have, and where these straps are placed are all important. Some tree stands are so complicated that it almost takes an engineer to get them ready for carrying. The 2-inch adjustable carrying straps, the perfect placement of these straps, and compact size combine to make the Tree Lounge surprisingly easy to carry. The total weight of a System 1 is 22 pounds. When in carrying position, the Tree Lounge fits your back like a backpack. It does not stick up above your head or hit you in the legs like most other portable tree stands. The compact size really pays off when you're trying to go through some thick stuff. Once you learn how, it takes 2 to 3 minutes to take a tree lounge off your back and attach it to a tree, ready for climbing. In this demonstration, I am not trying to hurry, yet it takes 2.5 minutes to take the tree lounge off my back, attach it to the tree, and then get into climbing position. When it comes to climbing, all tree stands are not created equal. Some require hugging a tree and lifting the stand with your feet. This method is rough on the hunter, it's rough on his clothes, and it's definitely not safe. Some tree stand companies give you a strap to climb with. This may eliminate hugging the tree, but it's not much easier or safer. The next step up is a hand climber, which is used by several major tree stand companies. Using a hand climber requires lifting your body and your stand with your arms, like chinning. And guess what happens when your tree stand slipped off your feet when you're 10 to 20 feet up a tree? Using a foot climber is by far the safest and easiest method of climbing. Just about anyone who can walk can climb a tree using this method. This is a method used by the tree lounge. After a little practice, climbing is so easy that it's almost fun. Another advantage is that the tree lounge foot climber has no foot straps or bungee cords to worry with. Just stick your toes in the foot climber and start climbing. Once your tree lounge is in position, turning around is simple. Just drop your foot climber, place one knee in the seat, and turn around. The foot climber cannot fall because it is attached to the tree lounge by the two carrying straps. Since the tree lounge does not use blades or spikes to grip the tree, it does not damage trees like other stands. On most trees, it will only put a small dent in the bark. Baker-type tree stands do not have enough tree holding ability to be safe. To see why this is true, one only has to look carefully at how this type of stand works. When a hunter places his weight on the platform, the stand tends to rotate. This pushes the rear of the platform into the front of the tree and pulls the V-bar or strap into the back of the tree. The back edge of the platform acts as a pivot point. It is the V-bar or strap that actually does the holding. With this type of stand, where the hunter places his weight determines the amount of leverage and the amount of holding ability. As long as he keeps his weight well away from the tree, this type of stand may rock and roll and make a lot of noise, but it is not likely to slip. However, if the hunter stands closer to the tree, there is a loss of leverage and the amount of pull on the V-bar or strap is reduced. Also, the platform tends to slide down the tree instead of acting as a pivot point. In order to demonstrate this loss of leverage, I have attached a scale to the V-bar of this stand. When my assistant stands on the outer edge of the platform, he puts a little over 180 pounds of pull on the V-bar. As he moves his weight to the back side of the platform, the amount of leverage decreases and the pull on the V-bar falls to 80 pounds. Just by shifting his weight, his stand has lost over half of its leverage and over half of its tree holding ability. With this type of stand, a hunter hardly ever places his weight on the outer edge of the platform. When climbing, he must place his feet in the climbing straps. In this position, he has very little leverage and his stand is in danger of slipping. After getting into hunting position, most hunters back up against a tree. Here again, his stand has lost most of its leverage and is in danger of slipping. It is the loss of leverage which causes this type of stand to slip, and this has been the #1 cause of tree stand accidents for a number of years. This type of stand will hold most of the time. But then, one day when you're out in the woods alone, something catches your eye. As you turn to get a better look, you shift your weight a little, and down you go. If you're lucky, there will be no broken bones. If you're unlucky, your next stop could be a hospital emergency room. The hunter who uses a tree lounge does not have this problem, for the tree lounge has far more tree holding ability than Baker-type tree stands. Instead of a V-bar or strap which holds the backside of the tree, it has two heavy-duty tree cleats which press against the front side of the tree. In order to demonstrate the holding ability of a tree lounge, my wife and I have climbed metal poles in hunting shows throughout the U.S. Although we have climbed these poles thousands of times, our tree lounge has never slipped a single time. This is another way that we demonstrate the holding ability of the tree lounge. Here, I have climbed to the top of a 13-foot pipe and am hanging off of one side. This is still another demonstration of holding ability. Here, I am stepping from one side rail to the other. Because of limited holding ability, Baker-type tree stands should not be used on trees with hard bark, such as hickory or oak, and should not be used on trees with slick bark, such as birch, sycamore, or poplar. In many situations, this limitation on the kind of tree one can climb can keep a hunter from placing his stand in the best tree for a given location. The greater holding ability of the tree lounge lets a hunter climb any kind of tree, hard bark, slick bark, or soft bark. It makes no difference. This ability to climb any kind of tree lets a hunter with a tree lounge place his stand in the best tree for each hunting situation. Baker-type tree stands are not very stable. Each time you shift your weight, they have a tendency to rock and roll. By contrast, once you put your weight in the sling seat of a tree lounge, you can shift your weight all you want and it won't budge. I can even step from one side rail to the other and it still doesn't move. As you can see, the tree lounge has excellent stability. Poorly designed or poorly constructed tree stands are another major cause of tree stand accidents. Under normal circumstances, a hunter using a tree lounge should never have to worry about his stand breaking. But the tree lounge is designed to support up to 1,000 pounds of static weight. This does not mean that it is safe for people like David Jones, who weighs 550 pounds. To be safe, a tree stand should be able to support at least 3 times a hunter's own weight. A 4-to-1 safety factor is even better. In order to demonstrate the strength of the tree lounge, we have suspended a platform and 40 concrete blocks from its sling seat. The total weight of the platform and blocks is approximately 1,200 pounds. Falling out of one's stand is another major cause of tree stand accidents. Some of these accidents are caused by a hunter losing his balance. Others are caused by a hunter going to sleep in his stand. The hunter who uses a tree lounge does not have to worry about falling out of his stand. When climbing, his body is supported by the sling seat between 2 side rails in such a way that it is almost impossible to fall. I don't see how it would be possible for a hunter to fall out of a tree lounge when in hunting position. There are several reasons why a tree stand hunter needs good mobility. One is to get away from other hunters. Studies have shown that most hunters will hunt within 300 yards of a road. Once season opens, deer quickly adjust to this hunting pressure by moving away from roads and into more inaccessible places. A tree stand that is easy to carry, easy to set up, and easy to climb with lets a hunter get to these inaccessible areas where there is less hunting pressure and more deer. Good mobility also lets you rotate your stand sites. In most situations, rotating your hunting sites will give you a much better chance of seeing deer than hunting the same spot for several days in a row. And no matter how careful you are, it is difficult to hunt the same location for several days in a row without disturbing it to the point that the deer move somewhere else. Most hunters spend a lot of time looking for a better place to put their stand, and very often this scouting pays off with a newly discovered hot spot. Once you find a new hot spot, the tree lounge makes it easy to move. This ability to get away from the crowds, to rotate hunting sites, or to move to a newly discovered hot spot, plus the ability to climb any kind of tree, can be big factors in ending a hunting trip like this. If you have hunted deer much, you will probably agree that almost every situation is different. At least this is true with regard to how high one needs to climb when tree stand hunting. In some situations, 10 feet is enough. Sometimes 20 feet is best. There are other times when you need to climb much higher. Let me give you an example. Remember this doe from our 3-day hunt? It was late in the season, all the leaves were gone, and there was no cover at all. I had no choice but to put my stand right out in the open, but I was 35 to 40 feet high. If I had been using a ladder stand or a Baker type stand, I wouldn't have been this high and this doe would probably have spotted me. Without the tree lounge, we would have never seen the bucks that were following her. These deer walked almost directly under my stand, yet were completely unaware of my presence. In this situation, having a tree lounge which allowed me to climb 35 to 40 feet high was a major factor in the success of this hunt. There are 3 reasons that I can hunt 40 feet high safely. First, I use a tree lounge. Second, I know how to use it and what its limitations are. Third, any time that I'm climbing a tree, I am very careful. I don't take chances. The tree lounge is by far the safest tree stand made, but having a tree lounge is not enough. To be safe, you must know how to use it properly, and you must use good judgment every time you climb. I have been a member of a number of different hunting clubs, and each club seems to have at least one place that I would like to hunt but can't because there's no suitable tree for climbing. I solved this problem by adding a good supply of screw-in steps to my hunting equipment. This is one example of the kind of place I'm talking about. Here, I have my tree lounge about 35 feet high in a big birch that is on the bank of a small river. The river bottom is grown up in tall weeds, and there are deer beds and deer trails everywhere you look. When I first scouted the area, I found one trail that had 18 piles of fresh droppings in 20 yards. This is the kind of place I like to hunt. Deer feel safe in the river bottom and are likely to move any time of day. I can observe about 25 to 30 acres of river bottom and clear cut, yet the deer will never even suspect that a hunter is in the area. I could easily shoot my Georgia limit of 3 deer from this one stand year after year. There is much more waiting than shooting when tree stand hunting. The waiting can last for days, weeks, or a whole season, but the shooting usually lasts for only a few seconds. A tree stand that is uncomfortable can cause you to hurt so much that you cannot enjoy your hunting trips, can make it almost impossible to sit still while in your stand, and can cause your stand to be empty for at least half of each hunting day. Can you imagine how nice it would be to do all of your tree stand hunting out of a Lazy Boy recliner? As much as you might like the comfort of a Lazy Boy, the idea isn't very practical, for a Lazy Boy isn't portable and it won't climb trees. The tree lounge is just as comfortable as a Lazy Boy recliner. It is portable and it does climb trees. If you have never hunted with a tree lounge and have trouble imagining what it would be like, just have a seat in a Lazy Boy in your home, slide down to the semi-reclining position, close your eyes, and relax. Then imagine that you're 20 to 30 feet high in your favorite hunting area. This will give you a very good idea of what it's like to hunt with a tree lounge. It's nice. Being able to get into an area, put your stand on a tree, climb, and hunt without letting deer know that you're there is a very important part of successful tree stand hunting. Just let a big buck hear you, and your chances of shooting that buck will drop to almost zero. This is where the tree lounge can help, for the tree lounge is one of the quietest tree stands made. If you put it together right, it will not rattle or make any noise when carrying. You will make some noise when putting a tree lounge on a tree. How much you make will depend on how careful you are. With a little practice, you should be able to keep this noise to a minimum. When climbing with a Baker-type tree stand, one needs to be sure that the blade bites into the backside of the tree with each step. On a cold, clear morning, the sounds of a hunter climbing with this type of stand can be heard for several hundred yards or more. It is easy to climb very quietly with the tree lounge. If I'm careful, I can climb so quietly that someone standing 50 feet away will not hear a sound. Baker-type tree stands can rock and roll and make noise each time a hunter shifts his weight. With today's hunting pressure, it's hard enough to shoot a nice buck. Why make it harder by trying to hunt with a tree stand that rocks and rolls and makes a lot of noise every time you move? The tree lounge is one of the quietest tree stands made. You can shift your weight from side to side and it won't make a sound. A noisy tree stand is the last thing you want when you have a nice buck under your stand and are trying to get into shooting position. All it takes is one little squeak or click and he'll be gone. There is one aspect of deer hunting that never ceases to amaze me. This is the number of hunters who miss once they do get a shot at a deer. Based on conversations with thousands of deer hunters and with guides and others who are closely associated with deer hunting, I believe that at least half of the hunters who get an opportunity to shoot a deer make some mistake that causes them to miss or make a poor hit. If you doubt that this happens, the next opening day of gun season, just count the number of gunshots that you hear, and then count the number of deer that are brought into camp. To me, this makes about as much sense as leaving your gun or bow at home every other time you go hunting. Would a deer hunter leave his gun or bow home half the time? Of course not. Then why go hunting with equipment that only gives you a 50-50 chance of making a clean one-shot kill? The kind of tree stand you use can have a big effect on your shooting ability. If you're using a ladder stand, a non-climbing stand, or a Baker type stand, there will usually be a large area directly behind your stand where it will be very difficult to shoot. Can you imagine how a hunter must feel when he has a nice buck 20 yards behind his stand and can't get into position to shoot? It happens all the time. Another big cause of missing is trying to shoot without a rest aim. If your deer is in the open and less than 100 yards away, this may not be a problem. But very often, your target will be standing behind cover, like this buck. The only sure shot here is a spine shot at the top of the shoulder. Instead of a whole deer, you need to be able to hit an area about the size of an orange. For this shot, you need a rest aim. Here's another situation where a rest aim can mean the difference between a hit and a miss. These two bucks are over 200 yards away. If you have an accurate rifle, a good rest aim, and know how to shoot, you can take the larger buck home. Without a rest aim, your chances of taking this buck home would be almost zero, no matter how good you are with the rifle. One of the advantages of hunting with a tree lounge is that you can shoot with a rest aim in any direction. If you're shooting to the front, you can rest on your knees like this. Or, for a long shot, you may want to slide down into your tree lounge like this. I call this position my bench rest shot. If you're shooting to your left, rest your arms on the side of the tree lounge. If a deer is directly behind your stand, turn around and shoot like this. This is one of my favorite positions because I have an excellent rest. My left arm is resting on the tree lounge and is also braced against the tree. If you're shooting to your right rear, just swing your gun to the other side of the tree and shoot like this. If you're shooting to your right, just turn around and rest your arms on the tree lounge like this. Let me give a little demonstration of what a good rifle, a tree lounge, and average shooting ability can do. My assistant is placing plastic jugs filled with gasoline in an open right-of-way. One jug is at 50 yards, one is at 100 yards, and a third is at 200 yards. An open flame has been placed behind each jug. If I hit the jug, the gasoline will explode into a huge fireball. Now I have moved my tree land to the opposite side of the tree and will try the same 3 shots again. Margaret and I have killed 45 out of the last 46 deer we have shot at. And you have just seen one of the biggest reasons why we have this kind of record. Other hunters may be satisfied with the 50-50 chance of shooting a deer, but this is not good enough for us. We try to stack all the odds in our favor before we ever go hunting. Bow hunters have about the same problem as gun hunters when it comes to shooting behind their stands. A bow hunter who is using a ladder stand, a non-climbing stand, or a Baker-type tree stand can only cover about 60% of the area that is within normal shooting range. The bow hunter who uses a tree lounge and bow hunting adapter does not have this problem, for he can shoot a full 360 degrees. To illustrate this ability to shoot in any direction, I have placed a target 20 yards behind my stand. I will take 4 shots, 2 off the right side of the stand and 2 off the left side. This ability to shoot in any direction can be an important advantage for a bow hunter. The company that makes this stand claims that it is the most versatile tree stand made. They base this claim on the fact that their stand can be used as a climbing stand or as a non-climbing stand. Very frankly, I think the tree lounge is far more versatile than any Baker-type tree stand. Here's why. You can hunt facing the tree, or you can hunt facing away from the tree. You can use the tree lounge at a very flat angle so that you're almost lying down. You can use it at a very steep angle so you're sitting up. Or you can use it somewhere in between so that you will have a choice of sitting up or reclining. You can use it for gun hunting. With the addition of a bow hunting adapter, you can use it as a bow stand. You can use a tree lounge as a climbing stand, or by using limbs as screw-in steps, you can use it as a non-climbing stand. The tree lounge can be used as a litter-type carrier. Or, with the addition of tree lounge wheels, it can be used as a cart for hauling a deer out of the woods, or for getting camp gear into remote areas. The tree lounge makes an excellent cleaning rack. And after you have used your tree lounge as a tree stand, a deer carrier, and as a cleaning rack, just hang it on a tree around camp, sit down, and relax. It makes a great camp lounge. As you climb, a tree will get smaller, causing the angle of your tree stand to change. With Baker-type tree stands, you have to guess at how much to allow for this change of angle before attaching your stand. Most of the time, you won't know how high you need to climb until after you are up in a tree and can look around for firing lanes. With so many variables, guessing right is very difficult. If you guess wrong, your stand will be tilted one way or the other. When this happens, you will have two choices. You can climb back down and start all over again, or you can hunt out of a stand that is tilted. The hunter who uses a tree lounge does not have this problem, for the angle of the tree lounge is not critical. It also comes with a wedge and bungee cord. The bungee cord has an adjustable hook on one end, so that it can be adjusted to fit various sized trees. In effect, the wedge makes the tree bigger again and lets the hunter adjust the angle of his stand after he climbs to where he wants to hunt. This ability to adjust the angle of the tree lounge after climbing to your desired hunting position is just one more of the many advantages of hunting with the tree lounge. And this is an advantage that really comes in handy, for it is one that you will use almost every time you climb a tree. Being able to change your clothes in your stand is another advantage of hunting with the tree lounge. Depending on the weather, I wear light to medium clothes while walking to my stand and climbing. If I get chilly, I pull a pair of insulated coveralls out of my utility pack and put them on. This ability to change clothes in my stand has saved many a hunting trip. Going to sleep in a tree stand can be very hazardous to your health, and sooner or later, most hunters who hunt from tree stands have this problem. If you get sleepy when hunting with the tree lounge, just put your gun in the gun holders, fix your pillow, and take a nap right in your stand. After your nap is over, pick up your gun and go back to hunting. Besides a safety factor, being able to take a nap in your stand can be a big help to your deer hunting success. If you get out of your stand to take a nap, you will disturb your hunting area. If you return to your stand after your nap is over, you will disturb your hunting area all over again. Your chances of shooting a deer will be much better if you can take a nap in your stand and then go back to hunting after your nap is over. This is what Margaret did on our 3-day hunt. This is a Treeland System 1, just as it comes out of the box. After watching this video, I think you will agree that the System 1 is a great piece of hunting equipment. However, we have a number of accessories that can make it even better. Each one of these accessories is a practical and useful piece of equipment that we have developed in order to fill a specific need. This is a tree lounge pillow. The pillow comes with 2 string ties and attaches to the tree lounge in this position. The pillow pads your back when sitting up. It's a pillow for your head when in the reclining position. And it's a pad for your back when the tree lounge is in carrying position. The tree lounge gun holders are bolted to the lower seat support and the footrest, and may be attached to either the left or the right side. The gun holders may be permanently attached, for they do not interfere with the telescoping of the tree lounge. The gun holders keep the hunter's rifle in perfect position for a quick pickup. This is a tree lounge utility pack. When hunting, the utility pack is fastened to the lower seat support where it is easy to get to, yet it is completely out of the hunter's way. The utility pack is fastened to the top of the tree lounge for carrying. This is a Tree Lounge System 2, which consists of a System 1 plus 3 accessories: the pillow, gun holders, and utility pack. A System 2 is a very good buy, for it gives the hunter the tree lounge plus 3 of the most useful accessories. This is a Tree Lounge chill pad, which is made of 1-inch foam and is covered with soft camo fabric. The chill pad serves 2 purposes. Its main purpose is to insulate the hunter's backside during cold weather. It also serves as a cushion and increases the comfort of the sling seat. This is a Tree Lounge sport saw. The sport saw is usually taped to the upper section of the tree lounge. The sport saw can be used in many ways, but its main use is for cutting limbs that may get in the way when climbing. The Tree Lounge System 3 consists of the Tree Lounge System 1 plus 5 accessories: the pillow, gun holders, utility pack, chill pad, and sport saw. The System 3 is our deluxe model, and it is a great piece of equipment for the hunter who plans to spend lots of hours in the woods. This is a Tree Lounge bow hunting adapter. The bow hunting adapter attaches to the lower seat support by 2 bolts and wing nuts. It has 2 stabilizer bars on each side, which are used to level the platform after climbing to hunting position. The tree lounge is placed at a steeper angle for bow hunting so that the hunter is in a sitting position. This makes it easier for the bow hunter to move to a standing position for shooting. The tree lounge with bow hunting adapter gives the bow hunter the safety and comfort of the tree lounge, plus an excellent shooting platform. For over 5 years, we tried to find a good safety belt for tree stand hunters. During this time, we looked at dozens of different designs and bought a sample of each one that looked like it might have the features that a tree stand hunter would need. After 5 years of looking, we could not find a single safety belt that we could recommend to our customers, so we designed our own. Our safety belt is made of 2-inch seat belt webbing. The tree belt and the body belt are equipped with auto-type seat belt buckles. Seat belt buckles are expensive, but using this type of buckle makes the body belt and the tree belt easy to attach, easy to adjust, and easy to remove. The connector belt is equipped with a quick release buckle and can be adjusted with one hand. The connector belt is looped around the body belt. This lets a hunter turn to the left or right without changing the distance between his body and the tree. Tree stand knobs are a handy addition to any tree stand. They are much easier to use than wing nuts. They are also easier to find if dropped. When your fingers are cold or you have gloves on, knobs are much easier to use than wing nuts. This is the tree lounge tree nest, which is a combination pillow, chill pad, and padded armrest. The tree nest is another accessory which can add to the comfort of the tree lounge and to the pleasure of deer hunting. This is a sniper shack, which serves as a combination rain shelter or blind for tree stand hunters. The sniper shack attaches to trees with bungee cords and adjustable hooks. Studies have shown that deer move more during a light rain than at any other time. A sniper shack can help you take advantage of these excellent hunting times. A sniper shack can also be used as a ground blind. The last item on our list of accessories is the tree lounge wheels. The wheels are attached to the upper section of the tree lounge with 4 bolts and wing nuts. The wheels are used to convert the tree lounge into a camp cart, which can come in handy for hauling a deer out of the woods, hauling firewood, or for hauling camp gear into remote hunting areas. When demonstrating the tree lounge at hunting shows throughout the U.S., I have heard of hundreds of tree stand accidents. Almost every one of these accidents has been caused by one of 3 things: a tree stand slipping, a hunter falling out of his stand, or by a tree stand breaking. The tree lounge is designed to eliminate all 3 of these major causes of tree stand accidents. Tree stands that slip because they do not have enough tree holding ability is by far the biggest cause of tree stand accidents. Most slipping accidents are caused by Baker-type tree stands. The tree lounge has many times more tree holding ability than Baker-type tree stands. If used properly, there is no reason for a tree lounge to slip. Hunters falling out of their stands is the second biggest cause of tree stand accidents. When climbing or hunting, a hunter's body is supported by a sling seat between 2 side rails in such a way that it makes it almost impossible to fall out of a tree lounge. Tree stands that break because of poor design or poor construction are the third major cause of tree stand accidents. The tree lounge is designed to support up to 1,000 pounds of static weight, so it should never break under normal hunting conditions. Most people who hunt with the tree lounge feel completely safe and secure. When you're out in the woods alone and sitting 20, 30, or even 40 feet up a tree, it's nice to know that you have a tree stand that won't slip, won't break, and that you cannot fall out of. Believe me, the peace of mind that you get when hunting with a tree lounge is worth a lot. It's also worth a lot to be out in the woods in your favorite hunting spot and be completely comfortable. If you're comfortable, you will enjoy your hunting more. You will have time to enjoy the peace and quiet of the woods or to watch birds, squirrels, or other wildlife. When you're safe and comfortable, tree stand hunting can be so enjoyable that shooting a deer becomes less important. And after all, this is the way that deer hunting should be, something you enjoy, not a battle of endurance with the pain in the backside. Hunting with the tree lounge can give a hunter a number of advantages that are directly related to hunting success. The mobility of a tree lounge lets him hunt in the best place he can find. The holding ability of the tree lounge lets him climb any kind of tree. Good holding ability, easy climbing, and other safety features let him climb as high as he needs to climb. The comfort of the tree lounge lets him stay in his stand for as long as he wants to hunt. This comfort can double a hunter's stand time and greatly increase his chances of seeing or shooting a deer. The tree lounge is quiet, so that when you do see a deer that you want, you can get into shooting position without making noise that could scare him away. The ability to shoot with the rest aim in any direction gives you a better chance of making a clean one-shot kill when you do see a deer you want. All of these advantages add up to one thing. Hunting with a tree lounge can easily double a hunter's chances of seeing or shooting a deer each time he goes hunting. If you take care of a tree lounge, it can give you a lifetime of hunting pleasure and hunting success. I don't know of any other piece of hunting equipment that can give a hunter as much for his money as a tree lounge. Most hunters who go into a sporting goods store to buy a tree stand ask the same two questions. How much does it weigh and how much does it cost? Very few ever ask the really important questions, such as, does it have good tree holding ability? Does it rock and roll each time you shift your weight? Is it noisy? Is it comfortable? Think about it. These are the things that will have a major effect on your personal safety, on your hunting pleasure, and on your hunting success until you either give up tree stand hunting or buy a better tree stand. If you buy a poor quality pair of boots, your feet may hurt. If you buy a poor quality rifle, you may miss a deer. If you buy a poor quality tree stand, you can ruin the pleasure of your hunting trips. You can ruin your chances of seeing or shooting deer. And you could fall and get hurt. Think about it. A tree stand is the one piece of hunting equipment where buying poor quality can be a very expensive mistake. Tree Lounge and Tree Lounge accessories are sold in better sporting goods stores. If your favorite store does not carry the Tree Lounge, call or write Advanced Hunting Equipment for the name of your nearest dealer. For information on the Tree Lounge or Tree Lounge accessories, call or write for our catalog. It's free. Our address is Advanced Hunting Equipment Incorporated, P.O. Box 1277, 8630 Wallace Tatum Road, Cumming, Georgia 30130. Our Georgia Watts number is 1-800-233-0459. Our Eastern U.S. Watts number is 1-800-826-9695. Our regular phone number is 404-887-1171. For safer, more enjoyable, and more successful tree stand hunting, give us a call. Goodbye and good hunting from your friends at Advanced Hunting Equipment, the company that makes the best equipment for the best hunters.